Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX and I'm Shivani Singh. The war between the United States, Israel and Iran is becoming more intense with major developments in the last 24 hours. Iran has launched fresh missile strikes on Israel, causing casualties and injuries as air sirens were heard across several cities. In response, Israel has continued heavy airstrikes inside Iran, targeting military and strategic locations. Israeli officials have said that these operations could continue for weeks. And in a major escalation, an oil tanker in the Gulf region was hit by a drone attack, raising serious concerns about the safety of global oil supply routes. This has increased fears of disruption in oil trade and rising prices worldwide. There are also reports that key Iranian military figures may have been targeted in recent strikes, which could impact Iran's leadership and response going forward. The conflict is no longer limited to just Israel and Iran. Tensions are spreading across the region, with incidents being reported in places like Lebanon and parts of the Gulf, raising the risk of a wider war. The global impact is already visible. As the situation continues to escalate, the big question that remains is this conflict moving towards an end, or is it just the beginning of a much larger war in the region? Joining us on this special broadcast is Ambassador Kanwal Sibal, former Foreign Secretary. Thank you so much, sir, for taking out your time and for speaking to NewsX. We appreciate it. Ambassador Sibal, if I can first welcome you to the show. And I want to first understand, sir, your overall perspective on this issue before we get into the nitty-gritty, Ambassador, because over a month into this war, a lot of red lines have been crossed. From energy infra being targeted to innocents dying, even if it was unintentional. This is a war which started off as nuclear containment, and now it talks about regime change, obliteration. US has signaled that they want an exit soon, even if the Strait of Hormuz remains closed. Do you believe, sir, that the US can still get an honorable exit, or have we entered a point of no return?
Well, since it is a dishonorable war, I don't know what an honorable exit would mean. This was a needless war. It is in total violation of international law and the UN Charter. It was not at all a necessary war. Negotiations were going on. Negotiations were making progress. The Omani mediator has said that publicly. And very surprisingly, the economist of the UK gave in space to narrate what was the progress in the talks between the US and Iran. Why did Trump choose to go to war? What pushed him? Is he being pushed by the Israelis, or is it that the Jewish lobby in the United States is so powerful that they persuaded him to enter this war? Initially, he may have felt that with the decapitation of the Iranian leadership, the supreme leader and many top military and intelligence and other officials, about 40 and all, they say, that the regime would collapse. And I think they were basing this on the assumption that there had been street riots and pretty widespread in the weeks before. Therefore, there may have been a feeling that if the top leadership was eliminated, then those dissenters who wanted a change in regime will come forward, and there would be a change of regime from within. That has not happened. Now, the United States is facing a very serious dilemma. They can, of course, continue to hit Iran. Israel can also continue to do that, destroy progressively their infrastructure and threaten to destroy it even more, as in one of the latest tweets of President Trump. But that's neither here nor there. Do they want a totally destabilized, fractured Iran, and what it would mean in terms of security in the region? Do they want to have a negotiated way out, then is the negotiated way out dependent on how much more damage they can inflict on Iran, or is it dependent on making some very concrete positive moves towards Iran, which would give some incentive to Iran to come to the negotiating table? Now, Iran has shown that it is capable of suffering. It might suffer a lot. It might actually end up by seeing most of its civilian infrastructure destroyed. But for them, as they see it, it is an existential conflict.
Right.
They are very, uh, they're not at all convinced that if they entered into any process of negotiation with the United States, that'll be the end of the matter. That sooner rather than later, this whole thing will start again, especially as Israel has not been under control of the United States. Maybe they're working together, but even if they were not working together as closely as one might think, uh, Israel is having a free hand in Lebanon, in northern Syria, in Gaza, in the West Bank. So the core of the conflict, which germinated from Israeli actions in the Palestinian area and the expansionist policies of Israel, as seen by others, that core issue will not get resolved unless Israel is seen to be checkmated. Now,
Right.
that is not part of the discussion. So I am pretty skeptical that the current efforts as some kind of a negotiated solution would result, would have any positive result. Now, there is in a sense, uh, cracks in the Western camp.
Right.
Europe is not on board. Spain is openly against this war. France has not allowed American aircraft to overfly space uh, to uh, to go to Israel. UK is also held back. The Europeans are very concerned about the rise in oil prices, energy prices, and how it will affect their economies, which are already under stress. More than that, they're also worried that the attention is being drawn away from the
Right.
Ukraine conflict, and they want
Absolutely.
to maintain pressure on Russia. So that part of the overall strategy of containing Russia's threats, so-called, to Europe, that is not working.
Right.
So Europe is in big trouble. But from our point of view, the bigger trouble, which has serious repercussions for us, is what is happening in the Gulf states. One of the great successes of our foreign policy, and legitimately so, was the relationship we had built, a very productive relationship with the Gulf states, with with UAE as the hub of this, and there were very ambitious plans to deepen this relationship in various domains, including in very advanced areas of high-end computers and artificial intelligence,
Right.
critical technologies, all these things, because they have the money and they have the ambition. I'm talking about the Gulf states. And India has capacity. So there were a lot of programs that were being discussed, but all this was dependent on peace and security
Right.
in the Gulf states. Now, the Gulf states have been attacked by Iran. From the Gulf states' point of view, this is unacceptable. The Iranians argue that you are hosting U.S. bases. The U.S. has attacked us, and some of you have developed very close relations with Israel, and therefore you are, in a sense, party to the conflict. Other than this, they're also allowing their airspace to be used by Israel to attack uh, Iran. And then
Right.
Iran can also argue, whether we accept that argument or not, that why can't they hit all the US economic assets in the region? Even in the energy sector in the Gulf states, the US companies, ExxonMobil or British companies like BP, they have a very big share.
Right.
And there are offices of big American corporations and big business houses which are located there. So, from the Israeli point of view, if it is a fight to the finish, then they would attack these. Now, if they
Right.
attack these offices and energy installations and the economic targets in the US as a share, then they are sowing huge mayhem in the Gulf. And with our 10
Absolutely.
million people there, and the remittances that come from there, and the energy that is sourced from there, and the Gulf of Hormuz is very critical for us for the movement of energy from this region. We are very big sufferers. In fact, we are amongst the big countries, we are the biggest sufferers. China has a lot of resources. They will be in difficulty, but they can manage, and they have direct pipelines linking them to Russia and this Kazakhstan and what have you. Europe will suffer, but Europe has a lot of economic power. Uh, in the case of India, and nobody has 10 million people working in the.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So for us, it's a very, very major blow. So we would be deeply interested in some kind of negotiations and a peaceful solution. But Trump is so utterly erratic. He says one thing one day, another thing another day. Or for example, not only that, he changes his position by the hour.
Absolutely.
And he's been threatening the Iran with destruction of their entire energy infrastructure, including potentially desalination plants. Now, if Iran reacts and starts hitting the desalination plants in the Gulf countries, look at the effect of that on the civilian population, including our expatriates there. So I'm afraid U.S. and Israel, although they are our friends, and we must nurture that relationship. They have indirectly delivered a very, very major blow to our interests in the Gulf and our economic interests in general, and destabilized and beginning to destabilize our economy.
Right. So, Ambassador, you've brought out some very pertinent points. The question of Israel, if they want to stop the war, the question about the security of Indians that are stuck in the